Bulavanaka. As Ravneil said, my name is Anneliese. I'm a researcher with Southern Cross University in Lismore, Australia, and I'm delighted to be speaking with you today about equity and inclusion in beekeeping, but I guess specifically how we can strengthen beekeeping value chains and also family beekeeping enterprise in the Pacific region through those principles. So I had a bit of trouble putting together this presentation today because I've had so many incredible conversations with many of you about beekeeping in your countries and the steps you've already taken to ensure that your beekeeping industries, associations, the ministries, the formal ministries that engage with beekeepers are inclusive and diverse. So I just wanted to acknowledge, first of all, the Fiji Beekeepers Association. We've heard about their mentorship program, we've heard about their value-added product training program, and I'd like to acknowledge that both of these have been quite a critical pathway into ensuring and supporting women's empowerment through beekeeping in Fiji, finding pathways for women's inclusion and celebrating the skills that women bring to the table. So those programs, mentorship in particular, is really important in strengthening women's skills and their confidence and their capacity to participate in beekeeping. I'd also like to acknowledge the Samoan Aparis organisation. I think on my first night here, I don't know, Clayton, I'm trying to find you, but on my first night here, I had this brief conversation with Clayton and Richard, and I was just blown away, front up, straight ahead. They were just all about how important it was to engage women and youth in their association and their activities, and I was just blown away by that kind of attitude where we're actually talking about women's inclusion front up, front and centre. It's not something that's in the background anymore. We really see it as quite a critical part to strengthening a beekeeping value chain, is to ensure that we are representing all of the beekeepers who are currently participating. And also in Papua New Guinea, the Eastern Highlands Beekeeping Association, and talking with Agatha about the formation of a women's beekeeping group off the side of that, and the fact that that's almost about to be registered as well. So they're really exciting developments in the region, and these aren't restricted to just those few countries. I know that many of you are taking steps to ensure more inclusive and diverse industries. So this photo was taken back in 2019, and this was a very impromptu women in beekeeping workshop that was held at the Department of Agriculture and Livestock in Papua New Guinea. And I remember having a lot of support from John Jarve and Jonah Booker to get all these women together so that we could celebrate all of these queen bees, but start to try and understand what in fact were the barriers to women's inclusion in beekeeping and how we could start to strengthen our approaches, both as researchers but also in development, to ensuring that women have increased opportunities for socio-economic empowerment through beekeeping activities. And I'd also like to say that I've talked about beekeeping specifically. I'm a beekeeper, and it's been my passion for 5 years now, but many of these principles can be applied to all sorts of agricultural activities. And the beauty about the Pacific and agriculture is we are so closely aligned with the land, we're so closely aligned with food production. So when we talk about social change and transformation, and inclusion for marginalised groups, including women and youth and people in very rural communities, I see agriculture as an important pathway to that in the Pacific. So, what are we talking about, and what does this all mean? So really, equity and inclusion, these are quite broad terms, and what I really wanted to communicate to you today is that although we talk about inclusion often in relation to gender specifically, there are actually many factors that influence the way people perceive you and the opportunities afforded to you in your life. So gender is only one of those factors. Your age, your physical ability, where you live, where you come from, how much education you've had are also all really critical factors that kind of, I suppose, influence the way people see you in your life, but also the way that you're treated in your life as well, your place in the world. And so when we talk about equity inclusion, it's for everyone. It's for men, it's for women, it's for youth, and I think that's really important to communicate. This isn't just about gender, this is about fairness. And if we are going to grow the Pacific beekeeping industries, if we are going to ensure that we're as productive and profitable as we can possibly be, it is really important that we're considering at all stages how we include as many people as we can in our industries. So this is a really popular diagram in development, and if any of you have ever done a workshop, I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen this diagram before. I use it a lot, but especially in Australia, we talk about equality for men and women. But sometimes it's not in fact equality that's what is needed, because equality assumes all of us start from the same place, and that isn't always true. As I said, referring back to that other image, there are many factors that influence the way people perceive us and our position in the world. So you can see in the first image there, equality is giving everyone the same thing. It's assuming everyone has the same issues and requires the same response. It lacks a diversity in response that acknowledges the different perspectives and perceptions that people have in their own life. Whereas equity, true equity, actually recognises that people require different supports based upon their existing position in society. So for women and children, they may require additional support in order to bring everyone up to a level of equal fairness. And I included the last one, justice. I don't typically call it justice, but I really just call this empowerment, and that's for everyone. That's not just about women, but I truly believe a fair and empowered society is one where we eliminate all the barriers for everyone, and we all have access to the opportunities and resources we need to be successful in our own lives. So, what is our approach to equality and inclusion? Well, predominantly I work on this sort of idea of agency structures and relations. And this is about dealing with inequalities across multiple spheres of people's lives with the organisations, both formal and informal, that people interact with. So on the informal side of agency, we have things like confidence and self-esteem. Now I'm going to use a bit of an example here with Karen Mills' VAP workshops. I hope that's okay, Karen. But I came over last year and I actually got the amazing opportunity to do one of Karen's workshops as a participant. And what I can tell you is the one thing I noticed was, yes, we made some beautiful products and it was very lovely to make some candles and body balms and share that. But what I really noticed was by the end of the day, there was a difference in the way that people were interacting with each other, and that people grew in confidence, and particularly the women. They started to talk about the kind of products they'd be making in the future. They start to get ideas. They become inspired. And I think that is the sign of a really great organisation, a great training, whether it be in government, private enterprise, or through a beekeeping association, is to recognise that, yes, knowledge and skills are important, but having the confidence to crack a beehive, to get into your brood box, is just as important as knowing what's in there when you see it as well. So if we look at relations, again, there's two sides to this that exist in both the formal and informal aspects of people's lives. We have the engagement in group membership and obviously developing social networks. So programs like mentorship programs become really important for creating those linkages for people who may have been traditionally excluded from places of leadership or places where they can have a voice and say in their lives as well. And then we have a personal side to that, which relates to family beekeeping businesses. And that's about improving the relationship dynamics at a personal level to ensure that people have an equal say in decision making in the household, that they have a say in the roles and responsibilities that they take part in. And like, I'm a bit guilty of this in Australia. With my beekeeping activities, I'm the kind of head at home. I kind of run the show. And I made this terrible assumption that my partner just wants to get involved. Like, he would just help me because he just did. And it wasn't actually till I sat down and kind of ran through with him, hey, do you want to help me with my beekeeping? Are you happy to carry my empty boxes in the sun? Like, are you happy to sit there for hours nailing together frames on my behalf? That I realised that he was happy to do those things because I also contribute to his life as well. But he didn't want to get inside the bees. Not interested in a bee suit, not interested in the smoker, pretty much interested in staying as far away from the happy area as possible at most times. So those conversations, we make assumptions about what the people in our lives feel and think and how they see the world. And it's a really obvious thing to say, but one way you can all strengthen your family beekeeping business is just to have these conversations with your family. What do you see as your role being in this business, and how can we strengthen it together? And then there's also the structural side. So this comes down to some of those more formal aspects of gender, and it was amazing to hear the Minister of Agriculture and Waterways reference the importance of the inclusion of women here in Fiji in order to increase the profitability and productivity and sustainability of agriculture here. And I think that is really critical. Fiji has taken a huge step forward in the last couple of years. Their large agricultural household census survey, it's the first time that survey has been gender disaggregated. So for all the Fijian women in this room, it's the first time your voice has really been heard in agricultural policy in this country in a meaningful way. And our wonderful team from the Ministry of Agriculture have just completed a workshop, I guess informing and empowering them about strategies they can use and action plans to take to apply this policy in their work and to understand better how to serve everyone within our agricultural community. And then there's also the side where we try to eliminate those social and cultural barriers that people face as well. And they exist all around the world. They're different amongst all of our communities. So we often speak in generalizations when we talk about beekeeping in the Pacific, but I know from work in PNG and here in Fiji that there are differences in how people relate to one another. And also the differences in beekeeping practices which influence how women are going to engage with beekeeping and how we can support women and particularly also youth engagement. I think is really important for all of us here in the room today too. So a couple of presentations touched on the beekeeping value chain, and this is not going to apply to every single country. And this is just like a bit of a haphazard roundup of some of the different parts of a beekeeping value chain, but I did want to show it for people who maybe don't understand the concept that as beekeepers we think about beekeeping, we think about the bees in the box and processing and harvesting honey. But actually there are so many parts of our beekeeping value chain that can be strengthened by inclusion and having the structural format that supports greater engagement. We need a diverse range of input suppliers that benefits all of us, diverse views and opinions and perspectives that filters down through the industry and creates more opportunities for employment. I've got collectors and processors and packers. This figure's kind of based upon what we see in PNG, where a lot of farmers their honey is collected and then it's processed at a collective facility. I know here in Fiji, a lot of the packaging and processing of honey is done in the household, and that job is predominantly done by women. So if your wife or your spouse or partner or maybe your kids are helping you with that aspect, why don't you ask them, what do you think about this? Can we optimize this process? How do you see your role? Is there a way that you can reach out and build their skills and knowledge, which is going to support the productivity and profitability of your own beekeeping enterprise? And I think what's really unique about beekeeping in the Pacific is the last little figure there, and that's NGOs. There is a lot of engagement with external organisations in beekeeping in the Pacific. And so at times that hasn't always been positive. At times it means that different groups and people's voices haven't been heard in the way that they probably should be. And I think we need to acknowledge that part of the process of empowerment and inclusion and diversity really comes down to also external agents who are working in the development space, ensuring that these principles are actually embedded into programs. It's not just a box ticking exercise, but it's tangible, it exists, and we're collaborating with our local partners to understand how we can better improve women's capacity to participate. So given the diverse nature of family farming, there's no one real definition of family farming. Family farm businesses play an incredibly important role in contributing to nutrition and food security, natural resource management, and the mitigation of risk and threats to the beekeeping sector. They also substantially contribute to community cohesion. So where you have cohesive family units, we find that you're more likely to have a cohesive community structure as well. So there's a flow-on effect for everyone when we start to actually, in a real way, engage everyone in a family unit, whatever that unit looks like. And I know in the Pacific that can be, in Australia, can be quite small, and then in Fiji it can be quite large. So it's going to be, these conversations also need to be tailored by you for your own personal needs. And I think that's really important to acknowledge as well. So how do you do that? Family mentorship programs. We talk about mentorship a lot as individual. We talk about one-on-one mentorship, and that's really positive and that's excellent. But there is great potential for us to expand that and to start thinking about the mentorship of family units together, getting families together to work through decision making, business planning, working through opportunities for sharing resources, and also having a diverse income. If you have more diverse views and perspectives in your beekeeping enterprise, you're going to have more opportunities to diversify your income. And I think that's really important. We're talking about climate change, we're talking about resilience, so many important topics that have been brought up. And it comes down to every person in this room having a voice, having a seat at the table, and being able to contribute their knowledge and their skills to grow not just their family enterprise, but also to contribute to this beekeeping sector. I think most countries here aspire for improved production capacity, and a lot of that has to do in Fiji with the number of hives and the production per hive. So it's incredibly important that we are trying to reach the full spectrum of people involved in beekeeping. So I won't keep you too much longer, but a lot of the time, gender equity in particular, a lot of the time we talk about productivity, and I know I've mentioned productivity a lot today, but I assure you it goes far beyond anything to do with economics. It really cuts to the heart of what is fair in our society. And you need to ask yourselves in your roles, whether that's with government or private enterprise, whether it's in your own family, but ask yourself, is this fair? Am I considering the voices of the people around me? And how can I be an agent of empowerment myself? How can my actions contribute to improving the lives of others? I think this is an important factor when we consider food security in the Pacific. Women are absolutely critical to family nutrition in particular. And so by empowering women, we're empowering youth and communities to have improved food security and improved nutrition outcomes, which is an incredibly important issue, I know, here in Fiji with non-communicable diseases at the moment. So there's many potentials there. And then obviously empowering not just women, but youth, and also ensuring that we really are trying to expand out from the traditional centres of operation. It's really easy to deliver trainings around Nadi or Suva or capital areas. It's much harder to reach rural populations. And in PNG, it's such a challenge. The country's so geographically diverse. There are actually places where you can't drive there. It's incredibly hard. People have to walk through, the bush for a long time to get to any sort of centre. So for marginalised farmers like that, accessing training isn't just a matter of just going down the road or engaging with an association. It's incredibly important as development agents, and also within your own roles. I know we have lots of representatives from the outer islands of Fiji here with us as well, that we're ensuring these opportunities are spread equally amongst everyone. And then finally, inclusive governance and structures. Inclusion and equity isn't just implied. You have to ensure within your organisation or your family that you set that standard. You say, if you have to, we want you to bring your wife to training. Bring the kids, they can sit by the side, no worries. That we're trying to eliminate the barriers that impact women's capacity to participate, and that we're trying to build confidence and self-esteem, knowing that those things benefit society, not just for beekeeping, but they benefit all people in all aspects of their lives. So in PNG, we have a bit of a saying, the kumu needs 2 wings to fly. But I thought, how do I change this for to be a bit more relevant to a wider audience? So I was thinking about it, and I had the honeybee needs 2 wings to fly, and then I was like, wait a second, a honeybee has 4 wings. And I thought, this room full of beekeepers, I can't say that. So I decided the honeybee needs 2 sets of wings to fly. And then, below it, I was thinking about these beekeeping industries and sectors and what I would like to see, what I think many of us want to see. And then I just started adding words, and it got bigger and bigger. But I absolutely think resilience, inclusivity. We all want to be productive and profitable, but we need to be sustainable, and we also need to be a collaborative Pacific beekeeping community. So thank you very much, everyone.